The usage rates for the latest Spiral Abyss are out. Technically, they've been out for a while, we're a little bit late. And they tell us some very interesting things about how the meta is shaping up, how people are using their characters, and there's also a lot of ways that you can easily misinterpret these statistics to tell you something that's not really there. So I'm gonna go through the whole list and compare and contrast my experience to some of the really quite weird things that we see on this list. Welcome to Jello Impact, where we build and test every single character to help you decide who you want to wish for and build. As per usual, it's very important to remember that the percentages are not total percentages used, but percentages by ownership. So that means for Zhongli, 93% of the people who had Zhongli used him in this Abyss. That doesn't mean he was used for 93% of all Abyss clears. That being said though, Zhongli is ridiculously high. And anytime people wonder why I put him at the very top of tier 1, almost in tier 0, this is why. Yes, maybe he's not the ceiling choice for too many teams, but he is the ceiling choice for the best DPS in the game, Neuvillette. And even more than that, you don't need the ceiling choice to clear the Abyss. Oftentimes you want the most comfortable choice that you can possibly get, and so even if he's not always the very best, he's often going to give you something that's the most consistent, which can be more valuable than the very best when you don't need the peak performance possible. I would say that this Abyss also, along with what many others have been saying, is that it's slightly on the easier side, and whenever the Abyss is extra aggressive or a little bit easier, Zhongli's rates rise. In addition, the second half is obviously very good for Geo. Between the gravity machine enemy as well as the centaur, both of these have sort of a Geo shield, and you really want Geo to be able to counter them. So whether that's going to be Zhongli, Navia, or Chiori, that's going to buff their usage and people are going to use them more. I would say that it's a little bit surprising that Chiori is not actually used more. And I know that 47% is very high, but remember, this is only the percentage of people who actually wished for Chiori. And so I'm surprised that Chiori isn't being used 70% of the time, because this Abyss is just so good for Geo. I think, unfortunately, Chiori is a little bit of a miss, and it seems like she's a bit underpowered. Hopefully they have plans for powerful construct characters in the future, but right now, this isn't too good of a percentage in my opinion. But Farina being second makes a lot of sense. I think it's hilarious how Neuvillette's best team is almost always the entirety first percentage. The first 4 spots are just Neuvillette's best team. I just think that's absolutely hilarious. And it just shows that even though like Neuvillette isn't the absolute peak of power, there's other teams, lots of teams that do more single target raw DPS. He's so easy to play, he's so consistent, and he has such insane AoE that he's always just the peak. Plus, he can max out Farina's stacks without needing a healer, just from his own healing. So he's just insane. Kazuha makes a lot of sense. This Abyss is very good for Kazuha. Obviously, Kazuha is used on Neuvillette's best team. This Abyss is very good for Kazuha, so it makes sense that he's higher up. There are more and more characters that have great team options that don't have Kazuha, which I've been talking about a fair bit. But the fact that Neuvillette's best team still uses Kazuha means that most people are going to play him on Neuvillette teams. So that's really good. That's going to keep Kazuha relevant probably for a good long while. Bennett's still very, very high. This Abyss isn't like technically particularly great for Bennett. There's lots of mobile enemies. The PMA and the Hydro Talupa, neither of them are crazy for, like Bennett is good with Bennett. Shangling is really good for the Hydro Tulpa. The PMA, you can generally one rotate with a good team with Bennett, so it makes sense. But the first half on the second chamber, not that good for Bennett. The third one, not that good for Bennett. Like, it's all right. It's a decent Abyss for Bennett, but it's not like a crazy good Abyss. So to have him all the way at 70% usage, especially considering there are a lot of non-Bennett teams such as Neuvillette, this basically tells you that most people are using Neuvillette on one side and Bennett on the other. Plus, everyone basically has Bennett, as he's been giving for free multiple times. He's in the shop, he's on a ton of banners, he's on lots of recent banners. So the fact that everyone has him and most people are using him, it really does go to show how much of a dominant meta force Bennett still is. Baiju is the most common replacement for Zhongli for Neuvillette teams. But the other thing about this Abyss is even if people are using Baiju with Zhongli, or Baiju instead of Zhongli on Neuvillette teams, you're still probably going to use Zhongli on the second side for the Geo stuff, since he pretty much solos the second side. Like, not like it's very good for the Talupa because it does a ton of damage to you, so having Zhongli is really consistent. And then the veteran arithmetic enhancer mech, also Zhongli just basically solos. Like, he doesn't solo, but he solos the shield. And he's very, very helpful versus the Legaticus Golem. So it makes sense. Navia, very good in the second half. She loves single target. She loves boss rush. And Gio is so good in the second half. Navia is queen there. Arlecchino can easily solo the second half as well. And I don't mean solo, but she can carry the second half. I guess that I should say solo. I should say carry instead of solo. But she easily carries the second half, especially if you just pair her with Zhongli on any team. Mono Pyro especially, she's just gonna destroy the second half. Chiori, Nahida, I guess Hyper Bloom with Zhongli on the second half. Maybe Nilou on the first side is probably pretty great as well. Yeah, you can just beat the perpetual mechanical area with Nilou, and then Nilou does great against the rest of it. Yelan, this is one of her worst abysses overall because the first half is very AoE, and then the second half, you know, it has the Hydro Tulpa. So it's not crazy good for her, but still good, and Yelan's still broken, so she's still there. Emily just doesn't have a crazy ton of teams. I expect Emily usage to go up when Mulanni, Kinich, and other DPSs that use Emily more regularly are here. One team that I've been trying out that I really like is Raiden, is using Emily in place of the Hydro on the Raiden national team. So use Raiden, Emily, Bennett, Shengling. I really like that. Raiden's surprisingly high, to be honest. I really like Raiden, obviously, but it's surprising to see her so high, especially so much higher than Chlorand and Yoimiya. I think Chlorand is great this Abyss, so that's always kind of surprising. I'm wondering what people are using, what teams people are using with Raiden. Does she show up? No, she doesn't show up on any of these. Seeing Raiden Chevreuse makes sense. Almost always in the second half. Raiden National. So yeah, Raiden National, Raiden Chevreuse. Makes sense. And they're not using Hyper Bloom Raiden. Yeah, Neuvillette on the first side, Navi on the second side. Yeah, Hyper Bloom with Gio on the second side. Yelan with Gio on the second side. Hu Tao double Hydro. Zhao. Yeah, this all makes sense, especially the top teams. Oh, Ayaka Freeze. Ayaka Freeze making quite the comeback. I don't like Freeze that much this Abyss, because I don't like it versus the Rift Hounds because they easily get unfrozen and move away, but it does work if you're a mad lad. Shenhe having the highest usage rate out of all the Cryos is crazy. Look at how, and look at the horrible spot Cryo is in. That's insane. No Cryo, and also the tiers are totally arbitrary, by the way. This doesn't mean it. Like, I wish that they didn't even put S plus, A, whatever. It's just the percentages. Like, it's so arbitrary what they're in, but to have Shenhe all the way down here and be the highest Cryo at 11.3% usage is crazy. That's crazy. Oh, Charlotte's higher than Shenhe. I mean, it makes sense. Charlotte's a lot more useful, and like, even though she's like up here, she's twice as more used almost as Shenhe. But anyways, Xingqiu, pretty high usage, honestly. The nice thing about Raiden National on the second side is, even though the Tulpa is immune to Xingqiu, you still vaporize from your Shengling on the Tulpa, and that makes up for the fact that Xingqiu doesn't do damage, and then he has that nice damage reduction, so you're less likely to be one hit if you're bad at dodging, so that's nice. Kuki, we talked about it. Shenyan, pretty high usage rate. Between Navia Plunge, I guess, and Zhao Plunge for the first half, it makes sense that, I mean, it's only 24%. She's pretty high on here. The percentages overall will keep getting lower, except for apparently Neuvillette, because there's so many more teams that just keep coming out. Like, there's so many good options. Yeah, like Emily being 40% is actually really high if you think about it. She's fairly, I mean, obviously this is brand new. She was brand new, especially at the time that this came out. But like, when there's so many characters, the percentages are gonna go down. There's so many good team options. Oh, Wriothesley. I totally missed Wriothesley. All of you guys are just gonna be so mad at me for missing Wriothesley. No, but Wriothesley's right there. He's ahead of Shenhe. Y'all can calm down. You can go delete your comment. They're scathing me. No, Wriothesley's up high. And it makes sense, you know, Wriothesley with Farina, Bennett, Shengling is going to be good on the first half. And then you can probably run some sort of Zhongli team on the second half. I don't see his teams actually showing up here. Yeah, I don't actually see any Wriothesley teams, so I don't exactly know what people are running, but we can guess. Alhaitham, yeah, Hyper Bloom, or Zhongli spread on the second half. Hu Tao double Hydro with Zhongli on the second half. Yai, Charlotte, Kokomi. Look at that. Sijouin, 18.5%. It makes sense if you chose Sijouin. There's dogs. There's a bit. She's pretty new. It makes sense that she's going to be higher up. Yeah, I'm quite surprised how low Chlorand is. She's great on either side. Her, especially with, I think it's because maybe people don't have enough Chevreuse, because Chevreuse on the second side is amazing. Like, you can easily take care of the Geo Shields with Overloaded. So second side is very good for Chlorand, and also very good for the first side, because she doesn't have great AoE, but all of these enemies are like two beside each other, and Chlorand is amazing at dealing with that. Like, I think that, and I'm not helping my case for me thinking Chlorand is broken and all of you guys disagreeing with me, and now I'm disagreeing with everyone, but I gotta say, Chlorand has got to be one of the most underrated characters in the whole game. But whatever. I don't care. And no, it's not because I simp for her. She's actually just really good. You guys don't realize, I guess. I don't know. Childe International is still a great team. Albedo getting a bump from the Geo side. Linny theoretically could be very good on the second side if you run Zhongli and you can vape on the Tulpa. I guess it's just Arlecchino and Hu Tao. People just find easier to play, which I definitely do. Wanderer, Ito getting a bump from the Geo on the second side. Shenhe, Nilou. I feel like Nilou's pretty good this a bit. Especially run Nilou, Farina, Baiju on the first half. I think Nilou just suffers from the Neuvillette syndrome. It's like Neuvillette's just pretty much just easier to play than Nilou all the time and a bit more consistent, which oftentimes makes him better. So I think that's why Nilou's usage rate suffers so much, is it's just like, just use Neuvillette. Chevreuse, once people actually get C6, people are gonna realize how broken Chevreuse is. Official, 4 stars are always gonna have a lower usage rate even if they're broken because everyone has the 4 stars. Yoimiya, 6.5%, hot beating out Eula, Ganyu, and Klee. Oh, you can't see them down here. Jean, Tainari, Ayato. All right, they were missing some footage, so I said, fine, I'll do it myself. So I got the app, downloaded it. Yeah, and they were missing C tier. So first thing that jumps out, Sino at 3.7%. The lowest usage, limited 5-star in Genshin Impact. Ouch. I think Sino's not that bad. Like, I do think Sino is better than Eula and Yoimiya, but his multi-wave performance and his team's flexibility is really rough. Like, he hasn't gotten any new teams since Farina, basically. Like Emily, kind of, but it's kind of sucks. Sino really needs some love, I think. I think it's his multi-wave performance that hurts him the most, a lot. And I guess Yoimiya does make sense for her to be a little bit higher this Abyss because the second half is purely a boss rush chamber. Eula, Ganyu, Klee. Klee is one of those characters that no one uses anymore, but still is a pretty good character, especially on the first half. It's just that why would you use Klee when there's so many other characters? She's just a victim of usage rates. It's just it is. I'm recording. No, Faithy, I'm recording a video right now. Venti, ouch. Second worst limited character usage rates. That's crazy. I never use Venti, I'm not gonna lie. I think he's sort of just getting worse and worse and worse because grouping is just much less important than it used to be. Even when you can group, enemies don't stay grouped. Like, if you look at the dogs, right, what's the point of, like, this is all AoE, but like, what's the point of grouping them? Like, lots of these enemies, not most, but a lot of them are ungroupable, and even ones that are, like the wolves, don't stay grouped. The mechs are ungroupable, the ruins are ungroupable. It's really only the third one that's really nice, and still, like, Kazua's still good, but it's like, why would you ever use Venti? If they ever wanted to buff a character, I think it would make sense to buff Venti. As he is an Archon, I would really love to see like an actual Venti buff. Like, they just rework something in his kit or give him an OP brand new signature weapon that like is very specific to him but makes him really, really broken. I don't know how you would do that exactly, but I would really love to see Venti be buffed because it's sad to see an Archon be so unused and basically like don't wish for Venti. Like, that's really sad, I think. And they can't really make him better because if they do, like, if Venti is good, then he's too good. And if he's just a poorly designed character in that way, like, he's either oppressively good or inexcusably bad. What else? We've got Mona and Dea being the highest used standards, except for Tainari. Makes sense. That's pretty much exactly how I would rate these characters right now in terms of like general usefulness. Oh, and Jean. Jean is used even more. I think I remember Jean was quite high, which makes sense. Absolutely. Diona, Sara, Ningguang, oh yeah, Layla and Noelle makes sense. Beidou, Toma, Sucrose very, very low, even though the multi-wave. Actually, I changed my mind. This Abyss is not that great for Kazuha. It's good for certain Kazuha teams where you have the flexibility, but it's weird. Are they even trying to sell Kazuha this Abyss? I wonder, maybe the next Abyss is trying to sell Kazuha, but won't he be off banner by then? No, is it already over? Yeah, he's on banner right now. So yeah, what are they doing? They're not selling Kazuha in this Abyss. In this economy, Brazier, Chongyun, Jinyan, Sethos. It makes sense that these are all way down here. Crazy how far Rosaria's fallen. Reverse Melt used to be like a staple free-to-play option, but too many 5-star DPSs. Beidou, so down low. People love to say that Beidou is really good, and if there's any Abyss that Beidou should be good in, it should be this one. Obviously, the PMA, she's not that great versus, but this is just 2 enemies after 2 enemies, and so is this. So, and the Rift Towns are weak to electric, so this should be one of Beidou's best Abysses, but she's sitting only at 1.8. It's just because there just haven't been many characters that synergize with her and that really want to use her. I think it's her energy issues that really hold her back, like really, really hold her back. They needed to make raiden Beidou work. That's so crazy. that it doesn't, because she really struggles without energy, and she just doesn't do enough damage when you have to build so much energy on her. So yeah, there's the usage rates. This one's pretty interesting. We have usage rate changes. So we've got Navia is 50% more used, Zhongli's 30% more used, Bennett's up, Xiangling's up. I guess the Bennett, Xiangling, Arlecchino, I guess they're up because of the Tulpa, I guess. I don't know. Bennett isn't even that great because you can get vaporized. So I don't even know exactly why Bennett's up so much. That's actually crazy. What the heck? But you're seeing an increase in Geo. Oh, even Linny is at an increase. Interesting. Shenhe, yoimiya getting this increase. That's a huge increase for her. You know, time used more than time and a half than before. It's because it's all single target, and she really struggles when there's AoE. I guess maybe bad characters are getting a buff like Eula just because the Abyss is easier, so people can actually use them. I don't know. And then no change for kind of the useless characters. These are characters being used even less. This one's interesting. The ownership rate. I always like to take a look at this. 78% of people own Zhongli. 93% own Farina, 70% almost own Neuvillette, 90% have Kazuha, 28% have Baiju, 42% Navia. That's very high. A lot of people wish for Navia. Damn. I wonder if that's like not actually true, but people more Navia mains reported because she's good this Abyss. I don't know. 90% have Nahida, 100% have Xiangling, but only 99.9 have Bennett. That's funny. You can't see it, but Yelan's down here at 78. 75 have Raiden. Quite a lot. Very a lot, and pretty decently high usage rate for how high her ownership rate is. More of Zhanyan than I would have expected. Close to Alhaitham. Hu Tao pretty high. Wow, Yaimiko ownership rate very high. Damn. Siege Ween at 11, Kokomi at 45. And I got a bit more detailed information on the teams. So yeah, Alhaitham spread. Interesting, with Kuki and Zhongli. So no Yaimiko. Interesting. Hu Tao with Mona. Better than you think. I like this with Arlecchino as well, except they use Bennett over Zhongli, but it makes sense for this Abyss to use Zhongli. Raiden Navia. Wow. Raiden Navia? What is that? What? Like you're just using Navia as a tech for the Geo, I guess. That's really interesting. They must have C2 Raiden. I don't know. Solo Neuvillette, really funny that it shows up here. Oh, Navia Emily. And with no second Geo, very interesting. Noel, Goro, Farina, Chiori. Oh, that makes a lot of sense. I should try that. Neuvillette with Siege Ween instead of Farina. Yeah, Linny double Geo, actually really good. You should try it. Hyper Raiden, and then Chlorand Yai way down here. What's the highest Chlorand team? What are people using? Nothing. People are just not using Chlorand at all. Interesting. I think that Spiral Abyss usage rates are getting less and less useful as time goes on because more and more characters are diluting the pool and the more easy the Abyss is, the more spread out and random it is, and so many people are just using Neuvillette, and it's just skewing. It's sort of like Rotten Tomatoes, how Rotten Tomatoes is fresh or rotten, and they don't give like a proper review for how good the movie is. It's just fresh or rotten. And if 100% of the people give the movie a 7 out of 10, then Rotten Tomatoes says it's 100% fresh, even though the movie is just a 7 out of 10. And that's kind of like this, is it doesn't take into account, you know, what if you couldn't use Neuvillette? Who would you use? It's just like, if you have Neuvillette, why would you use anything else? And so other characters are just pushed way down. So very interesting. Let me know your thoughts. Take care. Bye for now.